Awesome. Okay, well, welcome everyone to Building a Business Online. So this is going to be, and this is basically an introduction webinar. There's only so much that we can cover with this with an hour and a half. Um, as kind of a sneak peek into our 5-week in-person class series. So the in-person class series will be going ahead and doing a lot of hands-on type stuff. So we'll be actually, doing exercises and building the online business in person. But this one will basically be kind of like a super condensed intro. So you'll go ahead and get all the top line things that you would need to know. But if you guys are interested in going ahead and coming in person and doing this live over the course of 5 weeks, you can also go ahead and do that too. So I'll go ahead and get us started. So this is basically a roadmap to starting an online business in 2025. Um, a little introduction about me, your host today. So my name is Natalie. A little bit about my background. I'm a digital marketing manager with about 6 years of experience in the field, mostly working in ad agencies. My past clients include Unilever, mostly Unilever brands, but some other independent brands like we got Dove, Dr. Scholl's, Degree, Seventh Generation. My real passion is going ahead and working with small business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs like yourselves to go and help build their online presence and their brand. And today's agenda, like I said, will cover over a high-level roadmap of starting an online business. And why all this matters is, well, the online business industry is booming. Pretty much uh, most businesses nowadays, I probably would say 90% of businesses have an online presence. And I would say almost every business needs an online presence nowadays because most of the time, that's what a lot of people are going to be discovering you unless you are a super hyper local business who's only, marketing or tailored to the local community. So then this webinar is here to go ahead and show you how to go ahead and get successfully started online. Um, so what is an online business and why start one? I'm sure this is pretty self-explanatory, but just to go ahead and give you a top line overview. So online business primarily operates on the internet, offering products or services through digital platforms. So these are some examples of some online business models that are pretty popular. So you have e-commerce stores that's selling physical products directly to consumers, which is an interesting space to go ahead and be in right now with the political climate, all the tariffs and everything like that, but that's a story for another day. Um, Affiliate influencer marketing. So that's promoting other companies' products and earning commissions on sales of those products. It's a very popular way of kind of like a lower effort. You don't necessarily have to start your own business. You'll be promoting other people's products. But in terms of how much money you can go ahead and make, it's low investment, low sum uh, kind of way of making money. But if you go ahead and if you scale it enough, it can go ahead and actually make a decent amount. But you do have to go ahead and have multiple streams coming in from different companies. So if you can build a following, it's a really cool way to make some money. Then you have freelancing services. So that's when you're providing services such as, writing, graphic designing, or consulting, especially if you have a decent number of years of experience in your field. This is a really great place to go ahead and to be. You can leverage your expertise, something that you already know how to go ahead and do and make money off of that independently on the side, outside of your regular 9 to 5, or just, as a retirement plan or as a side gig that you want to scale into a larger business. Um, then there's digital products, which is a really, really awesome space to go ahead and to be in if you can get a decent following. That's basically offering downloadable items like ebooks, software, online classes. The reason I say it's a good space to be in is because it's very much a set it and forget it. Once you go ahead and build out the product or the course or the software, all you have to go ahead and do from there on out once you build it is just market it to people. So it's a more passive business to go ahead and to build. And then last but not least is drop shipping, which again is an interesting place to go ahead and be, especially again with the tariffs. But you can basically go ahead and sell products online without holding inventory. You can just have it shipped directly from the warehouses. So those are just some examples of some online business models. There are other ones, but these are kind of the top 5 that I've seen. So advantages, disadvantages of online businesses versus brick and mortar. In terms of advantages, for online businesses, there's lower startup costs. So completely eliminate the need for physical storefronts, reducing your overhead expenses, especially because rent is very expensive. Um, that's might, be caveated if you do go ahead and do something like e-commerce where you have to hold inventory, but you can hold inventory really anywhere, but to have a physical storefront, you need to make sure that there's foot traffic, that there's presence, that it looks nice. So that can go ahead and really uh, drive up your monthly expenses by a good chunk. There's also a lot of flexibility when it comes to online businesses. You can operate anywhere with internet access, so it allows for a better work-life balance. Pending you go ahead and have good boundaries, because I know that it can be a double-edged sword where it's like because you're working online, you can kind of work anytime, anywhere. So you will work anytime, anywhere, even when you probably shouldn't be. Um, there's also scalability, so you can really easily expand your business to reach a global audience without the high cost. Again, the internet spans across the globe, minus a few countries who go ahead and censor certain things, but for the most part, you can go ahead and reach people in India, in China, the islands. Anybody can go ahead and be your customer as long as you can go ahead and ship over to them. Or sometimes you don't even have to ship over to them, especially if you have a digital product, it can just be delivered digitally to them. And then last but not least, 24/7 availability. So your store always remains open around the clock, catering to customers at different time zones. And I'm also going to go ahead and cover how to go ahead and make even more accessible 24/7, because when it comes to certain aspects of the business, especially if you're a service-based business, it might not be the case that you're available 24/7 to provide services to people online, whether it's appointments, but we'll talk about ways that you can automate your business so that way it truly does become 24/7 availability. So, and it takes a lot of the pressure off of you to be available 24/7. You can kind of just let that run in the background and automate it. But like I said, we'll cover over that a little bit later on. In terms of disadvantages, so very high competition. So being the fact that there's a lower startup cost is a lot lower barrier to entry. So that means a lot of other people are going ahead and having the same idea and also going ahead and going into the field. So standing out requires strong branding, marketing strategies, and differentiation. It's not impossible to go ahead and succeed in the online world. Things turn around very quickly in terms of just like, who's in the field, who's like it's a very much Wild West to go ahead and to be in, but there's a lot of good money to be made, but you just have to be very strategic about what you're going ahead and doing. There's also a lack of face-to-face customer interaction. So you miss out on a lot of the in-person relationship building that a physical store would offer. So you have to be a little bit more strategic about how you're engaging with customers so you can still have that personal touch and people can feel connected to your business and want to return back and purchase with you again. So it does require a little bit more work on your end to go ahead and try to build that community engagement without having that face-to-face. And then last but not least, dependence on digital marketing and visibility. This is one of the reasons why I am here going ahead and doing this class, is the fact that doing an online business requires a lot of digital marketing. A good chunk of it, aside from, of course, going and having your website set up to go ahead and to bring in orders, is just going ahead and putting yourself out there in areas where people can find you, which is what digital marketing is all about. And nowadays in 2025, a website doesn't guarantee traffic. Um, it's not like a thing where you can go ahead and be like, okay, I launched my website and now the people will come. It's not the case, unfortunately. So you do have to go ahead and make the effort to go ahead and make sure your website is optimized for SEO best practices. I mean, search engine optimization best practices, which we'll touch on a little bit later on the slides. Things like paid ads, social media, content marketing, all of the above to go ahead and to get your business noticed. So it does require a lot of effort on that part. So um, pros and cons, things to go ahead and weigh out. Just food for thought as you go ahead and go along with building your business. So I just want to check the chat just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, I just see the link. Okay, thanks, Jen. Okay, cool. All right, I'll go to the next slide. And like I said, if there's any questions at all, you can feel free to go ahead and just, even if you want to go ahead and come off mute and just ask it. Once I go ahead and get towards this end of the slides, feel free to pop it if there's anything that you don't understand. Okay, so 5-step roadmap to success. So building your online ecosystem so that way your business can succeed and thrive and go ahead and get sales. So step one is just understanding your online ecosystem, what that comprises of, outside of, just your website. Step two would be building your sales funnel. Step three, setting up your website and social media. Step four, email marketing, customer engagement. And then step five, making sales and scaling. Because at the end of the day, we're all here to go ahead and make money. So making the sales, most important. Okay. So understanding your online ecosystem. So by online ecosystem, I mean the interconnected network of digital platforms. And by digital platforms, I mean things like your website, your social media channels, being like, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, if you want to be on X. Depending on depending on the industry, it's, it can be useful in some cases, but it's a little bit interesting, a little bit tumultuous. I don't know what word. But email marketing, online advertising, and different customer interactions that you would have online. So basically, just all of the different touch points online that you can be found in comprises your online ecosystem. So I kind of touched on each one of these, but your website is kind of like your main hub for your business, which can be interchanged with social media, but I'll pivot to that in a second. But your website serves as your business's digital storefront. It provides information about your business offerings, and also facilitates transactions, which is where you're going to go ahead and be having the sales. Then there's social media, which nowadays can honestly be interchanged with your website. It can supplement your website, or it can sometimes even act as that hub instead of having to build out a whole website, especially nowadays with a lot of times like Instagram, I know, TikTok, believe even Facebook now is starting to go ahead and implement e-commerce capabilities within the platform. So you can just have your business's storefront exist within Instagram and not have to build out your own website. So it removes some of the extra work, especially because building out a website can take a lot to go ahead into like a lot of time, a lot of energy. And if you're having someone go ahead and do it for you, a lot of money. So having just, an Instagram page or, a Facebook page where you can host all of your stuff it's helpful. But like I said, you can interchange those, have both. I do recommend that everyone has a social media. If you're not going to have a website, definitely have social. If you're not going to have social, then definitely have a website. Even though I do recommend everyone to have social media, even if you don't post off frequently, at least having something there. It can be like, all of maybe like 5 or 6 posts that you just have up there that kind of like give a little bit of background about your business, just to have like that there as a placeholder. So when people Google your business, it adds more services. So when people go ahead and look up your business, there's more links there to go ahead and to find you. And it makes your business more credible, not only in the eyes of your customers, but also in the eyes of the algorithm. And that is whether it's Google algorithm, Instagram algorithm, all the algorithms really like when you have links not from your website to other to your business. Do you do in-depth on building a sales funnel in the in-person class? Yes, we do. The question was, do you do in-depth building of the sales funnel in class? And we definitely go ahead and cover over that in one specific class. I think it's towards the end of the series, but we dedicate like a whole class to that. Thanks. Any chance the 5-week class is open online? No, unfortunately not. We cover over a lot of things, and it really does need the in-person touch, unfortunately. Okay, cool. Then there's customer relationships. So CRM. It's a it's an interesting it's an interesting topic. I feel like it's one of those things where it's not quite talked about enough in terms of how you're going ahead and like customer relationship. It's very intuitive when you're in person, because it's like obviously you're keeping relationships with your customers. You can go ahead and be like, oh, that's John from down the street. He goes ahead and comes in on Tuesdays for the lunch special. Like, I know his order by heart. It's that same type of mentality, but trying to go ahead and bring that online. And customer relation management tools go ahead and basically help you to go ahead and keep track of your customers, because now you can go ahead and be like, look at someone and be like, oh, that's John. You can't do that over a computer. So that's when you have customer relationship management tools. which I'll be covering over later inside the in the presentation. But it's a really good thing to go ahead and have. They have free tools that you can go ahead and use to manage your relationships with customers, like HubSpot. But like I said, we'll cover over that later in the slides. Then there's email marketing. It allows for direct communication with potential customers, existing customers for new products and nurturing relationships. Email marketing and customer relationship management kind of go hand in hand. Again, we'll cover over that later, deeper in the slides. And then there's online advertising and public relations. So this is something that I find that it's one of those necessary evils that a lot of people like to go ahead and uh, avoid. Um, just because, of course, it's money, and if you don't necessarily go ahead and set it up, and go ahead and do the targeting, it can feel like you're just throwing money out the window. But it can really, really help your business especially when it comes to the online field, when there's so much extra noise out there. It really goes and helps, especially when you're first starting off and you're trying to go ahead and get initial followers and traction. It can feel like a very long sum game trying to go ahead and get there. Be like, I'm not getting any likes, I'm not getting any followers. Having paid ads can really, really go ahead and help to go ahead and get that initial boost. So that's something that if you do have the funds for, I always recommend that to new businesses who are going ahead and starting off on the online space. And then public relations goes kind of hand in hand with that, but PR is never quite guaranteed. It comes over with time, but also with building relationships, and also doing a lot of cold calling, kind of with different types of publishers, so sending out emails to different types of, whether it's bloggers or influencers or spaces that your potential customers are in, to go ahead and get them to talk about your product, which will also help your SEO and to go ahead and getting you noticed with customers and with your target market. That's another segment that, like, again, we go ahead and go a little bit deeper in the in-person Fact Course series. We don't quite have enough time to go ahead and go into that because that's a whole nother strategy in itself, but both very, very important. Okay. All right. Okay, and then this is kind of a very it's a chaotic chart, but this is just to go ahead to show you basically how all of these platforms are basically interconnected together. They all feed into each other and they're all very important. People and us, our customers, can go ahead and find you from so many different avenues, and ultimately, like you said, you want to feed them into purchasing. So someone can go ahead and find you off of, your Instagram page, and then from the Instagram page, they can go ahead and, check inside your bio to see, like, oh, they have a website, let's check out their website. And then from the website, maybe they might sign up for your email list. So they go ahead and go over to your email list, and then maybe they're, you go ahead and you send them, an awesome offer where they're like, ooh, I should go ahead and hop on this. And then they ultimately make the purchase. There's so many different ways that customers can come into your ecosystem, so many different avenues where they, like, they might go ahead and go to your website, decide not to go ahead and buy, but maybe they might see an ad of yours and they're like, oh, right, I forgot about them, and go ahead and go then make the purchase. It's a lot of different touch points and avenues, but you want to make sure that you have multiple ones, so that way people are more likely to go ahead and make that purchase. The more touch points that you have, the more opportunities that people have to go ahead and buy your services, to go ahead and remember your brand, and to stay relevant with them. So they're all interconnected and important. Okay, so now building out your sales funnel. So a marketing model basically just illustrates the potential journey that customers can take, which is kind of what I had covered over before, just the different interconnected pieces of the funnel. So you want to go ahead and take them from first being aware of your brand all the way to go ahead and making a purchase, and beyond making a purchase again, or referring you to other people who might also be interested in your services. So this is a typical business sales funnel. You have at the top of the funnel is where people start off at the bottom is where people end off at. So at the top is the awareness portion. So this is where potential customers will first discover your business. The goal here is to maximize visibility and reach. You want to go ahead and get as many people into the top of the funnel as possible, because the more people at the top of the funnel, the more people will end up at the bottom of the funnel. Not all people are going to end up at the bottom of the funnel, but the more people that you have at the top, the better chances that you're going to have more people at the bottom. So awareness is the first step in the process, just for people to go ahead and to know who you are, who your brand is. Then they go ahead and you move on to the next step of the process, which is the interest. So this is where potential customers kind of explore what you have to offer. You build trust in this portion of the funnel to go ahead and give them basically valuable information. You nurture relationships. And to go ahead and basically kind of massage the customer into going ahead and just like feeling like they can go ahead and trust what you're selling, the product that you're, whether it's a product or a service, to go ahead and then to make them feel like, okay, you know, maybe I will go ahead and make this purchase. Which then leads them into the decision, where the customers kind of weigh their options. So this is kind of like, okay, like, you know what, like, you know, I'm interested in this, but maybe there's something else out there that might be better. You know, they want to go ahead and consider maybe price, you know, if anyone is offering anything different. And in this stage of the funnel, you can go ahead and do things to go ahead and help to encourage them, providing social proof through testimonials of people who have enjoyed your services, who go ahead and want to tout them, um, giving them incentives to push them forward, whether it's a discount to be like, you know, like you really want to hop on this because it's 10% off right now. So it's a good time to go ahead and to buy. So once they go ahead and do make the decision, then they end up into the action stage, which is the final, almost the final step of the process, pretty much, which is actually buying, booking, or signing up for your product or service. Here, you would think that this is kind of like, I got them, you know, the step where it's like, you know, like the hook, line, and sinker. But people can go ahead and drop off at this stage of the process. They could be fully committed to going ahead and buying from you. But then they go ahead and get to, you know, actually making the purchase. And let's say, you know, your POS online system is just kind of just like a little janky, or, you know, it's kind of like, you know, the page can't load, or they can't go ahead and like they get frustrated in the process. They can very easily drop off over here. They could want to make the decision, and then they can go ahead and get frustrated and just end up not making the decision. So at this step in the process, I always emphasize how a seamless experience is key. Um, Anybody who's going ahead and selling something online, I encourage you to make a faux purchase yourself, you know, charge yourself like a cent or 2 cents and try to go ahead and bring yourself through the process of what that looks like for a customer, and have friends or family do the same thing. So that way you can just make sure that the process for them going ahead and purchasing is as seamless as possible. And then the last step of the process is retention. So that's just keeping customers engaged and coming back with ongoing value, support, and exclusive perks. So that's basically just going ahead and getting people to, you know, talk nicely about your brand, going ahead and wanting to go ahead and be repeat purchasers, especially because for surprisingly enough, well, not surprisingly enough, but it's a lot cheaper to go ahead and to keep a customer than to go ahead and get a new customer. New customers are very expensive. Having to go ahead and market and pull them in and convince them and everything like that takes a lot of time and manpower and also money. So having to go ahead versus having to keep a customer, it's more so just going ahead and being like, hey, remember us? Like, you know, you bought from us before, you liked the product. Why don't you go ahead and come back again? It's a lot easier of a sell. Awesome. And then these are just activities for each steps of the sales funnel, just to show you how interconnected, again, everything is. So you have the awareness step. You know, people can go ahead and kind of first find out about your brand, be your website, whether it's like, you know, they found you on Google when they went ahead and looked up, you know, let's say if you are selling, you know, customized t-shirts, you know, they can go ahead and look up customized t-shirts near me, and you might pop up there. So website can be an awareness, social media, same thing, paid ads, PR, word of mouth. So you can see kind of just like the overall arching kind of just theme of this is the fact that every touch point can go ahead and be a different stage of the funnel. They all serve multiple purposes, but they're all important, you know. Your website can go ahead and serve as an awareness. It can serve as decision, as action. Same thing with social media. I'm going to be sending out these slides to all of you who go ahead and attend today, so you guys can go ahead and take a look through this. But for the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and keep going ahead and moving through. So, but all very important. Okay, cool. So step 3, setting up your business website. Like I said, this is going to be your business's hub. This is where people are going to be making the sales. And it's really good. It's really important to go ahead and make a positive first impression for your brand here. So when it comes to your website, one of the most, well, not the most essential thing, but a really important thing is to go ahead and make sure you choose the right website platform. I'm not sure if, depending on what type of business that you're going ahead and doing, whether it's a service-based business or a product-based business, you just want to make sure that you're choosing the right platform and you have the right pages. So something like a service-based website, I usually go ahead and go for something like a Squarespace. You can also do like a Wix. There's plenty of capabilities for either one in terms of like, if you're doing invoicing, if you're doing classes. Um, so they have capabilities there. The only time that I recommend Shopify for any business is if you're doing a product-based business. And by product-based business, I don't mean, you go ahead and sell one or two items. I mean, you have like a large inventory that you're selling, whether it's like clothes or, custom ceramics or something like that, where you could have like large inventory, because it's a great platform for e-commerce, but it can be more than most people need. So Shopify only for very specific cases. Um, and when it also comes to your website too, you also want to make sure that you're going and choosing a memorable domain name that's also not only reflects your business, but is also succinct and short and easy for people to remember and to do and type out. I don't recommend anything too long. I know like a lot of people, you might have your business name that's very specific and unique. If there's any way that you can go ahead and shorten it or condense it, create an acronym for it or something, just you definitely don't want it to be too long. Like think about like when you go ahead and put it on your business card, like having that super long line at the bottom of it, like it's just going to be too much for people to type out. Um, so yeah, choosing the right website platform, very important. Then you also want to go ahead and make sure, this is kind of the point that I was talking about in terms of the sales process. You really want to optimize your website for sales. So think about, again, what type of service or product that you're providing and making sure that your sales checkout area reflects that and people don't have to do too much for it. So you want to go ahead and make sure if you're doing a product based, make sure it's a checkout. Service-based calendar booking. There's a lot of calendar booking apps. A lot of them are integrated within most website platforms. If you're going ahead and doing social only, you can do something like Calendarly or Bookly, where you can go ahead and have people go ahead and book slots, but you want to have something that's going to be streamlined. Same thing for invoicing, everything just super easy and streamlined. You don't want to go ahead and do a situation where, I know like nowadays too, you have a lot of a rise of like, you can DM me for like, orders, send me an email, give me a phone call. Like it can be, depending on your demographic, if it's an older demographic, phone calls, that's still totally okay, especially because it's like, just knowing your demographic. But if you're targeting anyone who's, let's say under 40, having something seamless online is going to really be where it's at, especially because a lot of young people don't necessarily like to go ahead and speak over the phone. So having something that's just seamless, easy, especially because it's going to be great for you, because that means that you don't have to be standing by the phone every time you go ahead and you see someone who's interested or who goes ahead and pings you. You can just have everything set up. When you go ahead and log into your computer in the morning, you can be like, okay, I see two new people went ahead and booked with me. They went ahead and booked for this day, this day. It's in my calendar. I see, the emails went ahead and went out. It just becomes a lot less on you to have to go ahead and deal with. So definitely make sure that your website is optimized for sales, whatever you're selling. Okay, and then one of a really important thing, especially if you're going ahead and doing any website, also with social media too, you can do this also here, is making sure that you optimize your website for SEO best practices. And what I mean by that is just making sure that your website or your Instagram or your Facebook page just comes up as easily as possible when people look for your type of service. So you want to go ahead and make sure to be found when people want to. So to go ahead and do this, you want to go ahead and do some keyword research and optimize your content based on those keywords. So you can go ahead and use tools like Google Keyword Planner to find relevant keywords. There's a few other ones too. Some of them are paid, like SEMrush. I'm like forgetting one that's free, but like I said, I'll include some resources when I send over the slides to go ahead and find relevant keywords that you want to embed in all of your copy on your website. And by copy, I mean, little sections, headers, basically just any words that you put on your page. There should be keywords like littered through the entirety of it. Um, so yeah, so just try to go ahead and naturally incorporate those keywords into your website pages. Blog posts are really great for going ahead and throwing in keywords and going ahead and optimizing your website for SEO best practices. And headings as well too. Um, and then alongside with the keywords, creating high quality, useful customer content is going to also really help, specifically content that goes in and answers customers' questions. So this is something that it's a good way to go ahead and to use something like ChatGPT. Put in like a prompt of the lines of like, okay, I have this business that I go ahead and run. What are some frequently asked questions that people would go ahead and have for my product, for my service, or something useful that my customers would find useful. And you want to take these list of ideas and make content that goes ahead and answers those questions. Because there are so many times, I mean, even when I've gone ahead and searched when I'm looking for something specific, I know sometimes like pharmaceutical brands are really good at this. When it's like, okay, like I have a list of symptoms, like, this is going on with me or whatever. It's like, what does this mean? You look it up and it'll be a product company that goes ahead and has a blog post about this and how their product goes ahead and solves their issue. So not only are people going ahead and looking for it, they go ahead and get their answer to what they were looking for, and you go ahead and become a solution for them. So going ahead and having blog post or content that goes ahead and answers customers' questions, amazing for SEO. And then you also want to make sure that your website is optimized for mobile and for speed. Usually, most website builders will go ahead and have like a little gauge meter to go ahead and to show you whether or not like your website speed is loading correctly. One kind of like really good trick I like to have for website speed, if your website is loading too slow, I mean, is making sure that all of the images that you upload to your website are compressed. You can go ahead and do this for free online. You can look up image compressor. I'll try to also include links for that when I go ahead and send over the slides, where you can go ahead and compress your images. It doesn't dilute the quality too much. It's like very, very, very minute. But it really goes ahead and helps to remove website bloat so that way your website loads really nice and quick so no one goes ahead and drops off, because people will very much drop off your website if the website takes too long to load. Like people, the attention spans are very, very short. So if your website takes more than 10 seconds to load, you're most likely going to go ahead and lose like 70% of the people who go ahead and come to your website. So you might be going ahead and looking at it like, all these people always visited my website, but like no one went ahead and did anything on it. And that could be very well a reason why. So removing website bloat is very important. Then other than that, also ensuring that your website is mobile friendly. Again, most website builders will go ahead and give you an option to go ahead and just make sure that your website is mobile friendly. They'll give you desktop view and they'll give you mobile view. So you just want to make sure that while you're designing your website, you're tagging back and forth between the views. So that way you can see, okay, does this look okay? Is the mobile looking crazy? Is the website looking crazy? So you just want to go ahead and go back and forth, especially because, again, depending on your demographic, most people are going to be going ahead and viewing your website on mobile. Very, not to say that nobody uses their laptop, but especially for a lot of younger individuals, I've heard so many cases of a lot of younger individuals not even touching their laptops, even if they have one, and they just exclusively go ahead and browse everything on their phone. So making sure it's mobile friendly is very, very important. And then you also just want to make sure that the whatever template that you're using is clean and easy to navigate for a better user experience. You don't want anything too cluttered, or just competing with each other. Just have it nice and clean. The cleaner, the better. Not bare, but like just not too much clutter happening. And then in terms of SEO, so there's a few different strategies for local SEO, but also to get backlinks. So if your business is locally based in terms of like, you serve individuals within, the proximity of like Suffolk County, New York City, or Long Island, let's say especially if you're service-based business, actually, you know what, for everyone across the board, honestly, go ahead and get your free Google business profile. Every business can go ahead and get this for free. I think there's a few things that you just need to make sure that you have. I think you need to have your EIN number, and a location for the website for the business. If you have those two things, you can set up a Google business profile for free, and that alone that really, really helps with in terms of SEO. Anytime someone looks up your website, it's like that little square box that goes ahead and appears when you do a Google search, and it'll have like directions, website, share. It'll have those buttons pop up, so you can go ahead and get that for your website for free. Again, I'll include a link for that to how to set that up when I send out the slides. Um, and then you want to try your best to go ahead and to get listed in local directories, whether that be Yelp, even though Yelp is I've had a decent amount of people that I've gone ahead and worked with who despise Yelp restaurants. They really do break you over the coals in terms of just removing reviews and everything underneath the sun. But there's a bunch of other directories that you can be a part of, especially industry specific directories. I know they have ones for hairstylists, for like masseuse, for like gyms. So try to go ahead and find an industry specific directory that you can be a part of. Is there a good way to go ahead and also boost yourself with SEO? Because remember, with anything with SEO, anytime that you go ahead and get somebody else mentioning your business, it boosts your credibility. It's almost kind of like, when you hear, your friend talking up a restaurant, it automatically goes ahead and increases the trust that you have in that restaurant, because other people are going ahead and talking about the restaurant too. It works the same way with anything online. Um, in terms of also good things for SEO, collect and respond to customer reviews. So when you set up the Google Business Profile or the Yelp page or whatever it might be, and people leave you reviews, it's always best practices to respond to customer reviews. Unless, of course, they're in really just off base and super negative, and you can report those. But just try your best, even if it's just like a simple thank you, to just respond to customer reviews. Always good best practice in general, honestly. And then just try your best to go ahead and learn backlinks from reputable blogs and industry websites. So to go ahead and do this one's a little bit more hands-on in terms of SEO, best practices that you can go ahead and do. This requires a little bit more outreach and kind of code calling, where you have to go ahead and find, who owns the blog, asking them, emailing them, asking them if they can feature you or your products. Same thing with industry websites. It involves a little bit more cold outreach. These backlinks are worth their weight in gold, however, though. They are very worth it to go ahead and to get involved with something like this. So even if it's, let's say, on Instagram, you go ahead and do some cross-posting, which basically means you go ahead and you reach out to someone who is either within your industry, who serves customers within your target demographic, and you guys go ahead and work together to collaborate on like a post or like a blog post, and you both mention each other on each other's post. Something like that is really great for SEO. So I hope that makes sense. I know SEO can be a little bit technical, so if anybody has any questions on that, feel free to post it in the chat. Okay. Okay. And then last but not least, just in terms of just, little things here and there that you can go ahead and do to really go ahead and boost up your website. Make sure that you have a strong CTA. And by CTA, I mean call to action. So that is basically an action-oriented verb that you want people to go ahead and to do when they land on a certain page. So it basically guides your visitors towards taking a desired action, whether it's making a purchase, signing up for a newsletter, booking a consultation, whatever you ultimately want them to do. So you want to go ahead and make sure that your call to action is clear and action oriented. So using just super direct language, you don't want to beat around the bush to be like, oh, well, you can go ahead and, check out, my booking page, I'm available this time. No, you want it to be like super, like super short, super punchy, book a free call, learn more, shop now, just super short, straight to the point. And each one of them is going to serve its own different purpose and is going to go ahead and be for different levels of the funnel. So something like a learn more would be more of a top funnel. So that would be like more awareness or interest to go ahead and get people to go ahead and learn more about your brand, to go ahead and build trust, versus, a book a free call. That's more of in the decision category where, you're going ahead and trying to convince them to go ahead and to make the final purchase. They've kind of learned, they've discovered, but you're just trying to go ahead and make them to go ahead and bring them down to the conversion. So different pages will serve different purposes, but you want to have call to actions on almost every single page, on every post, because at the end of the day, you are a business, and the ultimate goal is to go ahead and to make conversions. So even if you're going ahead and doing something like, you're posting an Instagram reel, with a funny video that's related to, your business, but you're not doing a direct sell, you can always do a soft sell. And in the soft sell, you're basically going ahead and, and maybe in the captions or in the description, going ahead and being like, oh, by the way, you can go ahead and book a free consultation call with me. So always be selling, but you can do hard sells, soft sells. Um, and then for your call to actions, for any buttons or anything like that, you just want to make sure that you're designed for visibility, making sure that you're using contrast colors to make the call to action button stand out from the background. So that way people know, okay, this is where I'm supposed to go. This is the next step in the journey. And you want to make it nice and easily clickable so people actually take the action. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to go ahead and take the action. And then you also want to go ahead and make sure you place it strategically. So you want to go ahead and position your call to action above the fold. By above the fold, you basically mean anytime that somebody lands on a page, whether it's, on your Facebook post, you're going ahead and, talking about, this new class that you're going ahead and hosting. And you have a link to the website to go ahead and to register or to book or whatever. Whenever you land, whatever page that the person lands on, you want to make sure that the call to action button, they don't have to scroll to go ahead and to register or to book or anything like that. You don't want people to have to hunt to find, what to do next. You want it to be like, boom, right there. Same thing with like, all your pages on your website, your home page on the header that you go ahead and having buttons there very, very much so, like best practices, whether it's to shop now, again, to learn more. It can be any of those, but you just want to make sure that that's right there front and center so people can go ahead and just be like, oh, that's where I go. So I hope that made sense. Okay, awesome. Just let me know if there's any questions on websites, but that's kind of the overall crash course that we have on websites. Like I said, I go ahead and go a little bit more in depth in my 5-week in-person class series. But again, these are all top line, just super punchy insights that you can go ahead and implement today to go ahead and build your online business. Okay, so after websites, move on to social, setting up your social media. So this is the first introduction to your business. It can be, again, interchanged with your website. So this is also a place that you want to make a positive first impression with. So one of the most important things about social is knowing where to go ahead and to be based on where your audience is. So marketing on social media, it goes ahead and can bring massive exposure to diverse groups of people. Each platform will have kind of a different, slightly leaning audience. There's overlap. People will have multiple social media accounts, but they're more likely to be in certain areas and other areas. So these are all things that you kind of want to consider in terms of where you're prioritizing your time as a business. And for the most part, especially because, as small business owners, there's only so many people and so much time that you have to go ahead and do stuff like, market on social, make posts. So I always tell clients that I go ahead and work with to prioritize 1 to 2 platforms. You don't have to be everywhere. I don't recommend that you go ahead and, get accounts on all of these platforms and think that you're just going to be posting on there, every day, every platform. Like that's just not realistic. So you just want to be strategic on where you land at. So something like a Facebook is going to go ahead and skew like a little bit older, versus something like a TikTok, which is going to skew a lot younger. Instagram kind of being like a little bit in between. LinkedIn mostly for professionals, very good for B2B, versus YouTube is a little bit more broader range, but it's going to be a lot more educational. So it'd probably be best for someone who's going ahead and doing more service-based businesses. So again, these are all things to go ahead and consider about where you want to land. But like I said, don't feel like you have to be on all of them. Be on 1 to 2 max. A really easy kind of like 1 to 2 hit is Facebook and Instagram, because they're both very wide-reaching audiences, and you can connect the two of them together. So if you post on one, you can also go ahead and cross-post on the other without having to do much other than flick a switch of a button to go ahead and to be on both. So that's always a really nice, easy kind of like, introduction into social, just to be on Instagram or Facebook. So yeah. And then of course, with social comes creating content, which is always a very sticky point for a lot of people. It's not something that goes ahead and comes naturally to a lot of people unless you're, super native to, being online and you're very charismatic, especially because creating engaging content on social a lot of times means that you have to go ahead and be very much present on camera. And that's never, that can sometimes be a tough time for a lot of people. But being the fact that you are a business and this is your brand, it is very important if you're going to be posting on social to go ahead and to be front facing. You want to go ahead and make sure that you're building trust with your customers, that they know that, the person that they're going ahead and buying for, the business that they're buying for is trustworthy. You can connect with them. It's very important. So that's one thing I do want to emphasize with social. But in terms of the type of content that you're going to go ahead and be making, these are kind of content pillars. I like to go ahead and to say that you can go ahead and the types of posts that you can look to post. So you have entertainment videos or sorry, entertainment posts. These can include memes, funny videos, relatable stories, and scenarios. These are very much the creme of the creme when it comes to social. People go ahead and a lot of times go on there to be entertained. So anytime that you can go ahead and infuse humor into, your posts, it's always a good time. No longer are the days where, your business has to be, super kind of just like buttoned up and professional and, P's and Q's. There's a lot more room to wiggle when it comes to going ahead and throwing in some humor, even for professional service brands. It's a lot more casual being on social. So don't feel afraid to go ahead and infuse some humor. There's also educational content, which is probably the second most popular type of content that you'll find on social media. These can include tips, infographics, tutorials, guides, articles. And again, you can get really creative with all of these types of content pillars. You can make videos. You can do carousel posts, which carousel posts are basically multiple pictures that you kind of swipe through. I find that reels or videos and carousels go ahead and carousels following in close second, just because people like to go ahead and engage with content. Having to go ahead and like swipe left and right is somehow like really enticing versus going ahead and just having a single image. It can be just like the engagement definitely isn't as high having just one image versus having to swipe through multiple. So fun fact. Then there's engaging content. By engaging, I mean people going ahead and having to take action to interact with the post. So that can be quizzes, polls, Q&As, live chat. And this is a really good way to go ahead and to gauge customer sentiment and also to go ahead and get good ideas to kind of feed back into your business. You can go ahead and, do a quick, poll about, in this case, for this example on the slides, they have, would you rather have puffy tops or crop tops? And you can see how a lot of people went ahead and the mass majority went ahead and did crop tops. So maybe if this is a clothing business, they might be like, okay, well, maybe next season we go ahead and lean into crop tops because it seems like a lot of our customers really enjoy crop tops over something like puffy sleeves. I've seen a lot of people go ahead and do this for different types of content that they go ahead and drop, classes. They'll ask people, like what topics you really want to go ahead and know about, have a deep dive. And you can create a whole course series based off of people's responses. So it's a really good way to go ahead and engage with your community and your potential customers to not only go ahead and build that relationship, but also to go ahead and feed into your business and to go ahead and get better ideas that your customers will buy and purchase because you've already know that they are interested in it. So it's a good way to do both. Then there's promotional content. So promotional content is one of those things where you want to kind of do it sparingly. I know that at the end of the day, of course, your business and your ultimate thing is to go ahead and sell. But promotional content is very much in the pool of like a hard sell. And hard sells can go ahead and it can feel harsh. It's a hard sell for a reason, depending on, how primed your customer is to it. So if they're brand new, and you're just going ahead and hard selling constantly, it can feel a little bit off-putting, especially because a lot of times people, follow you're not going to want to necessarily follow an account that's just constantly trying to go ahead and sell to them. So you want to have a good mix of the other content in there, aside from just hard sells of like, this is my new product, this is my new service. It can get a little bit exhausting over time. But you can make them fun. You can definitely make them fun. You can go ahead and again integrate it with other content, throw a little humor in it, and kind of soften it up a bit. So promotional content, and then last but not least, there's personal content, which is definitely somewhere that I always recommend businesses to like really lean into, because one, it can be a lot easier to have to go ahead and do versus a lot of this other type of more tailored, more buttoned up production, higher production quality. So personal content includes like behind the scenes, meet the team, come with us to, buy, our supplies, come with us to, baking, this bread or whatever. It goes ahead and it gives a personal touch. It's very, very popular nowadays. Gone are, you know, having to go ahead and have like a studio where you record, your Instagram reel and you have to have professional lighting and, the super expensive camera. It's not like that, thankfully, really much anymore. You can go ahead and hop on your iPhone. Honestly, sometimes the more casual, the better, because you go ahead and become more relatable to your audience, but they can feel like she knows me because I can see myself in that person, or he or she knows me, so I can see myself in that person. So this is a really good area for business to lean into. Within reason, of course, you're still a business, so you still want to go ahead and make sure that you come off like you have expertise, but you can have a little bit more fun and it's a little bit easier to have to post content like this. So that is social media content. Again, any questions, just feel free to drop it in the chat. So with social media out the way, we'll move on to email marketing, which is a very underutilized tool or resource that a lot of businesses can use. And it is probably one of the most cost-effective channels that you can go ahead and lean into. It yields a very high ROI because it's a tactic that sits lower at the funnel. So once you get the awareness and once people go ahead and like let's say land on your website or your social media page, you can often go ahead and like, ask them to go ahead and give you your email, your name, and that kind of brings them into your ecosystem. And your email is basically where you can go ahead and truly personalize messages directly to your audience, helping to really build that connection and trust. And it provides a very good way to go ahead and to then sell to them, as opposed to having to speak to a wider pool of individuals who are not even sure if they're interested in your product. If people sign up for your email list, that they're more than likely interested in your product. So then it just becomes you have to create just a little bit more of a compelling case to go ahead and just get them to push just a little bit further towards the sale because they're already like right there. It's just the little extra nudge. Okay, so when it comes to building your email list, there's a few ways to go ahead and to do it. So the first thing that you want to go ahead and make sure that you do is create some type of lead magnet. And by lead magnet, I mean giving people a reason to want to go ahead and sign up to your email list. That can go ahead and be, a discount. You can go ahead and offer them, 20% off their next order, 10% off their purchase. You can offer them, a free consultation. But you can also do things like offer, a free content, like guides, exclusive, series, cloud course series, that are free. It's just some kind of incentive to go ahead and bring people to want to go ahead and give you their email address. So that way you can go ahead and end up inside their inboxes. So you can have a little bit more of a direct connection to them. So you don't have to like, fight with the Instagram algorithm constantly. And to go ahead and do that, you want to make sure that you have a sign up form ready to go ahead and capture the information. This should either be, again, on your website as something like a pop-up. You can also go ahead and have this on your social media page in the form of a link. Usually for Facebook, Instagram, etc., you can go ahead and have a link. I know TikTok is a little bit different. They're a little bit iffy with links, but you can go ahead and have something like a link tree. I'll include a link to that too. A link tree is basically just kind of like a digital business card in a sense, where it just hosts a huge list or it can host a huge list of your different links to the different points of your digital ecosystem. So you can have your website, you can have your social media pages, you can have blog pages, you could have, a link directly to sign up to your course. So you can have that all in one page so people can easily go ahead and navigate kind of like back and forth between all of your different channels. So you can include your sign up form in the link tree, or you can go ahead and have it as a pop-up on your website, depending on which route you go ahead and go for your business. And like I said, you can go ahead and encourage social media. You can have one like Facebook, you can have a direct link, Instagram bio, etc. Um, And then also you just want to go ahead and make sure for email that you stay rule compliant because there are rules when it comes to emails. So there's this thing called the CAN spam, GDPR rules, where basically you're in somebody's email box and they treat your email box kind of like almost like your home in a sense, where you want to go ahead and make sure that whoever's in your home you invite in. So you just want to make sure that you're never going ahead and collecting emails from someone, secondary, or you're buying emails from anybody that you're directly going ahead and asking the individuals, can I go ahead and get your email? Can you type in your email and give me permission to be inside your email box? And that's where your sign up forms go ahead and come in. So basically, just always get permission, never go ahead and buy email lists from someone who's selling them because it's just an easy way to go ahead and get your emails to end up in spam. And once your emails end up in spam, no one's going to go ahead and open your emails unless they very rarely check spam. And even then, if it's spam, it just doesn't necessarily look great for your business. Awesome. And then just making sure when you do go ahead and send emails to individuals, you want to go ahead and make sure those emails are engaging. So the first thing that people see when they go ahead and go into their email box is the subject line. So you just want to make sure that the subject line that you're going ahead and putting for your email is short, clear, and curiosity driven. I find that having something that kind of like draws people in to go ahead and want to open the email box to learn more, to kind of figure out what they're talking about is, it's very, very helpful. So it's either something alluding to like, some value that you're going to go ahead and provide. In this case, there's an exclusive offer inside. It's like, what's the offer? How, what's going ahead and happening? Am I getting a discount? Am I getting something for free? Like it goes ahead and entices you to kind of be like, So going ahead and short, clear, and incites curiosity. Then you want to also go ahead and segment and personalize your email list as much as you can. By segmenting and personalizing, when you go ahead and collect your emails, one really good tactic that I see some companies go ahead and use is creating basically, it can be a quiz of sorts. It doesn't have to be anything too long, but just a piece of information that would be very helpful for you to know about your demographic. Like let's say if you're like a personal trainer or something, maybe inside your email sign up, you can go ahead and of course ask their email, their name, and then maybe you can go ahead and ask them like, what are your fitness goals? And you can create just a little drop down that goes ahead and has like, main kind of like main reasons why someone would want to go ahead and come to you. Whether it's like, you can include weight loss, getting healthy for like, wellness purposes, for like, healthy lifestyle, doing it to go ahead and look good naked or something like that. You can have a list of different reasons why someone would want to go ahead and come to your service so that way you can have a little more information about them. So that way you can then tailor your emails to best suit their interests. So it really goes ahead and helps to create a even more compelling case for why someone would want to go ahead and go with your services. Because if you know this person's here to go ahead and have your services specifically for weight loss, maybe you might create a specific, a weight loss, plan to go ahead and target this demographic of people. A different one for people who are looking to go ahead and do it for wellness purposes, or different for people who want to, and you can create, it doesn't have to be a ton of different segments, just like maybe like 3 to 4 different segments that you can just tailor and kind of personalize just a little bit more. And then you want to just go ahead and keep it concise and valuable. So again, the big thing here for email is value. Because you're going to be in these people's email boxes. It's a very personal place to be. People are giving you permission to go ahead and to be there. So you just want to make sure that when you're in there, you're being polite and that you're going ahead and providing them with something that they would want to go ahead and read and check out while they're in there. You're not necessarily just there for your own your own end game. You're going ahead and there providing them with something else too. So yeah, and also you don't want to overwhelm people in sending email boxes. So don't try to send people, an email a day, a couple emails an hour, like definitely try to space it out. I tend to find, depending on the business, you can go ahead and do, anywhere from like 1 to 2 times a week. I mean, if you have something like, something big going on, you can do twice a week, but I find that maybe like once a week is definitely fine. You don't want to go ahead and do too much because then you can go ahead and end up being marked as spam by more people. So something to keep in mind. Okay, we're at the last section. I see we have a little under 30 minutes left, so I think we should be good. The last but not least is, of course, making the sales. So kind of we're bringing everything together that we talked about to going ahead and trying to get people to actually make the sale itself. And also scaling your business. In this is kind of where some of the more technical but also fun place comes in because you just basically want to go ahead and to make this process as easy for you as possible. Because I know what I just talked about was a lot, especially because there's so many other aspects of your business that you have to worry about, like funding and financials, and all that other fun stuff. So whatever you can do to go ahead and automate the process is going to go ahead and be like worth its weight in gold. And the good news is that a lot of the stuff you can go ahead and automate, which is awesome. So to automate your sales flow, this is kind of a kind of example of how someone inside of your sales funnel or your ecosystem would go ahead and move through and to make that ultimate sale. So let's say, someone goes ahead and finds, your business on Google, from there, they go ahead and land on your website and they get a pop-up that says, oh, sign up, to our email list and, get our, free, crash course, 3-day crash course, to bettering your life or something like that. So it's like, awesome. I want to go ahead and better my life in 3 days. So then they go ahead and they type in their information and now they're within inside your email list. From there, you can go ahead and create an automated sequence of emails going ahead and delivering on those 3 days of changing your life. You can go ahead and you can set them up beforehand. You can go ahead and type them up, have them together as a package, and then you can go ahead and have the system to be like, okay, every time that someone goes ahead and signs up to this list, I want you to send out these emails at these specific times. Each one of those emails will go ahead and bring a person closer down the funnel. You always want to keep the funnel in mind when it comes to all of the activities that you do online. So the first set of emails can go ahead and be introducing your brand, giving a little more background, building a little bit more trust. The next one might be about going ahead and educating them further, building that connection. And then the last one would be something along the lines of like giving them the offer. So it's like, you gave them the free taste. Now you want to go ahead and give them the offer to go ahead and to upsell them, to go ahead and bring them to that paid stage, So you might go ahead and go from the 3 days to change your life to something more personalized, like going even deeper, having a personalized one-on-one consultation, and you want to go ahead and make sure that you're providing like all of the value within that email to go ahead and be like, this is why you should go ahead and do it, reasons to believe, if you will. So like I said, bringing them down the funnel with the email, especially because you're already in the email box, so there's already interest there. So it's just about going ahead and just like bringing it home. And also the awesome thing about automating your emails is the fact that you can see what types of actions that people go ahead and take with each step of the series. So whether they open the email, whether they click on the email, and then so you can go ahead and know if a person doesn't necessarily act. Let's say they go ahead and they go through the email series, but they don't go ahead and take the offer at the end of it. So you can go ahead and do stuff where you set up where it's like, okay, this person, if they don't click on the link, you can go ahead and then send them an automated email in a couple of days to remind them or offer them extra value to go ahead and push them further over the edge. Be like, if you weren't interested before, actually here's 20% off the consultation session just to go ahead and to bring them even more over the edge. And you can set these all up and they can be automated. So you can just go ahead and set it up once. And then every single time someone goes ahead and signs up for your email list, it goes ahead and gets sent over to them. So it's set it up once, leave it, and you're done. And it works 24/7. So you don't have to go ahead and do any, you don't have to stay up late. People can do this at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're doom scrolling through their phones and they're trying to go ahead and figure out their life. And they're like, I need a 3-day reset. So it can work 24/7. It's great. So to go ahead and set something like this up, it sounds great. It is amazing. There's a few different tools that you can go ahead and use, which I am going to go ahead and cover over, like a MailChimp, a HubSpot. Again, I'm going to send over these slides with a list of links for the resources. I kind of already went through the example. This is a personal trainer/coach example that you can go ahead and and look through, but it's just taking you through the sales funnel of like, in this case, they went ahead and did a sales funnel of the Instagram Reel, where they went ahead and talked about, 3 mistakes that ruin fat loss. You can go ahead and click the link in the bio to go ahead and to learn more about this. And then, in the link in the bio from the 3 mistakes, it goes ahead and goes into a 7 day meal plan. You bring them through the 7 days. You go ahead and you give them the welcome, the meal plan, and you introduce them to your philosophy. So again, it's the same kind of like same down the funnel process. These are just a specific example of how that could look. Okay. So the tools to go ahead and to do this. So for the email marketing, you can go ahead and this is where you're going to actually, which is what you're going to be using to go ahead and send the welcome emails, the lead magnets, the promotions, etc. And where you can also go ahead and segment based on their behavior, something like a MailChimp, ConvertKit, Brevo. There's a few other ones. Some of them have paid, some of them are free. When you're just starting off, it's always good to go ahead and go the free route because who doesn't love free stuff, but there are limitations with it in terms of what you can do, what type of segmenting that you can go ahead and do. So it's always good to cross compare, but like I said, I'll include links so that you can compare yourself and see what might be best for you. And so, but email marketing sequence is amazing, great, especially for going ahead and making sales. Then the customer relationship management. This is a nice to have. I don't necessarily think it's 100% like you need to have it. It's a good best practice. Usually the email marketing software will go ahead and have some type of CRM built into it. But if you do want to go ahead and go above and beyond, you can go ahead and do something like a HubSpot, which is like the creme of the crop in terms of CRM. Streak CRM, which is Gmail based, or Zoho to go ahead and basically just track where your leads are in the sales journey so you can see exactly by customer what stage they're at. So you can go ahead and know who to kind of like target for what. Let's say if the person who goes ahead and who's on your email list, but maybe they opened up your first couple emails and then they haven't opened up your emails for like the past like few months. So you'll know that person's like kind of fallen off a little bit. So maybe you might want to go ahead and engage with these people with like a re-engagement campaign. Where you go ahead and, be like, hey, notice that you haven't been like, opening up your emails recently, is everything okay? Here's like, some special offer. If you're not interested in receiving our emails anymore, let us know. Which is actually something that's very important. I'm actually kind of glad that I brought up that point because with email, especially, you might think it would be better to go ahead and to have just like a bunch of emails, just in case, even if they're not necessarily opening your emails, even if they're not replying, but that's definitely not the case because there's a certain ranking when it comes to email providers where if you have a lot of people who aren't opening your email, so if your open rate is very low, and more people are reporting you to spam, they don't want to be on your email list, it goes ahead and drops your rankings and it makes you more likely to end up in people's spam boxes. So if someone's not necessarily replying or answering or engaging with your emails, you don't want to keep them on there, you want to remove them at a certain point. This is a process that you can go ahead and go through over time and just kind of like, maybe every couple months, just kind of take a look through to be like, like that person hasn't engaged in like, over like 5 to 6 months. Maybe it might be a good time to send a re-engagement email just to see if they're interested. If not, then take them off the list. It helps with your rankings and email boxes. That was a little side note, but good point to go ahead and know. Then there's also scheduling of bookings, which is very, very important, especially if you're service-based. It eliminates the back and forth in terms of scheduling calls and sessions to be like, when are you available? All this time doesn't work well for me. Do you work well this week? It's so much unnecessary time. So having a calendar set up where you can go ahead and have the person just click on available time, it's synced up to your email. So that way, if you have anything else booked, it won't double book you for anything. It'll go ahead and it'll abide by the times that you go ahead and lay out for them to when you're free. And people can just directly click on it and book with you, and you'll get a notification, and it'll end up on your calendar too. So you don't have to necessarily go ahead and pay an assistant to go and keep track of meetings and all stuff like that. So it does save you money as well. And you can use something like Calendarly or Audacity, I think it's called, to go ahead and for bookings and scheduling. So all service-based businesses, I think, should have this. And then last but not least, there's checkouts and payments, which again is very essential across the board. So you just want to make sure that the tools that you use for your checkout and your payments is integrated with your website. If you can integrate it with your social, again, just to make it a really smooth checkout process. There's Stripe, there's PayPal, there's Square, a bunch of different providers. I do find that it's always good to go ahead and have PayPal as an option if you can. But like I said, it's all subjective, as long as you can go ahead and take some forward payment, that isn't necessarily just strictly, Venmo. Even though Venmo is another good thing to go ahead and have, you just want to have multiple different payment options if you can. So yeah, I think that actually covers about it, but great timing. Okay, we did it 8:15. So that's kind of the everything that we've got for today. If you guys are interested in going ahead and learning more and doing this more hands-on and diving deeper into each one of these funnels, you can go ahead and join me for my in-person series that's coming up soon. It starts May 17th, which is not this Saturday, but next Saturday, I believe, time.
Yes.
Next Saturday. Okay, cool. Next Saturday, 12:30 to 2:30. It's in person at the Sally Ann Slack Center over at Suffolk County Community College in Brentwood, the Brentwood campus. So we'll go ahead and be doing hands-on exercises for each step of the process. I'll be giving you personalized feedback for each one of your businesses in terms of maybe areas that you can tweak, help with if you're stuck anywhere. You'll also go ahead and get to network with other business owners, like-minded business owners, which is like one of my favorite parts about it. So you can go ahead and share insights and collaborate together. It's super fun. And also, I always go ahead and share out like templates and checklists and stuff like that, especially as we go ahead and talk about different things. Things might come up, and the people might have questions, and I can send resources. So it's a lot of fun. If you can make it, you can go ahead and scan the QR code to go ahead and join. I'll also be sending out the slides, so you can also go ahead and join from there. And then we also have other workshops too. I know we have registering your business coming up this weekend. We also go ahead and we have a ton going on this month, a lot of fun stuff. So if you scan this QR code, you can go ahead and get taken to our website and you can see all the other classes that we have going on too. So yeah, so that is it. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to pop them into the chat. I'll stay on a little bit longer. You can also come off mute and you can ask any questions that you have. But if you're all good to go, then you can go ahead and go for the night. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your night and eat dinner if you haven't. And yeah, thank you guys.
I did also put the website in the chat just in case, people are on computers and can't scan the QR code.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Jen.
No problem. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. It doesn't look like we have any questions, so I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, and we'll give you back the rest of your 12 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Okay, I'll stop sharing and let me get out of here. Oh, and thank you all. Thank you guys. Bye.